Bloodline Productions. I'm sitting here with marine biologist Karl and friend, and we're going to be talking about a few topics that are big to me. One of the big ones that's big to me is the amount of oil and pollution that have spilled into the ocean locally and has made it kind of not so safe to eat the fish. Some local people say that you can't eat none of them. Some say, oh, don't worry about it, it's no big deal. So now we're going to bring the question to somebody who actually really knows.
Yeah, well, there is a concern, and it is significant. Here on the open coast, and we're here on the open coast off of Bodega Bay, the water's pretty darn clean here, and the animals are relatively healthy and safe to eat. We have abalone in this area, really popular for divers to get, very safe to eat. We no longer fish for salmon. Their population's been decimated to the point where we can't fish for them, but they're also considered safe to eat.
So salmon is no longer open to be fished for?
Salmon is no longer open to be fished for by sport fishermen or by commercial fishermen. The population has dropped so low that there's barely enough to keep the population going. It's no harvest whatsoever. But historically, up until just a few years ago, wild king salmon from this coastline was some of the healthiest salmon in the world. So excellent quality there. Rockfish, perfectly safe to eat in this particular area. There's been a lot of concern about rockfish down near the Farallon Islands because there is a Navy dumping site near the Farallon Islands where they actually dump high-level radioactive waste in yellow 50-gallon barrels. Barrels are made of steel and iron.
And eventually rot and open and start leaking.
Take very long, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the really scary thing about that is they pile the barrels up by the thousands. So
by the barrels, so it's like a barrel island almost?
Yeah, like a barrel island in super deep water. But the barrel island literally becomes an artificial reef.
So all this life goes on there and food and comes by there.
It's the middle of sort of an abyss, flat bottom. Now all of a sudden you've got this hard, rocky-like structure, but really it's
so
metal.
Passing through,
come right up to it. They're eating it. They're sitting there soaking in radiation.
Oh man! And then come on down to San Francisco.
Yeah. Oh well. Over time, then the fish would really compile in this area. Then the fishermen catch on to that, right? Money to be made. Lots of fish out there. They go out there. They start netting up this radioactive fish. Ends up right there in in the market in Safeway, and you're buying radioactive fish and have no idea.
Or those of us who go to the fish market, we all go there thinking that we're going to get a great fish, and we end up getting a glowing fish.
Yeah, exactly. You have no way to know. So, so luckily, most of that fishing stopped, not to protect people, because most of the fish got caught as filters and stuff. So, so that is a concern. But most of the rock fish on the North Coast are safe to eat and are good. The problem areas are in our bays, which have received pollution for over 100 years now. San Francisco Bay is one of the most polluted bays on the North Coast. Mercury pollution is one of the real concerns there, but also PCBs, pesticides,
and those go into like the fish, like in sharks,
absolutely,
like the cartilage.
They end up in the food chain. They get magnified as they go up the food chain. Who sits on top of the food chain? Sharks, rays. So they end up with concentrations of the mercury and other pollutants in their body. And for that reason, the state of California, California Fish and Game, and even the federal government puts out limits to how much fish is safe to eat. So as it sits right now, pregnant women should eat no fish from San Francisco Bay or from Tamales Bay, or if they do eat it, it's very small amounts.
What about here in Bodega Bay?
Here in Bodega Bay, the fish quality is relatively safe, and so there are no limits to the amount of fish that you can eat, or there are no government limits or recommendations to how much fish you should eat from these bays. At San Francisco Bay, absolutely, there are significant limits, and it's species specific.
Okay.
So sharks have a high amount, halibut have a lower amount depending on how long they've been in the bay. Sturgeon have an amount that's has to be looked at before you eat sturgeon. The older the sturgeon is and the larger the sturgeon is, the more toxin is sequestered over time.
So it's been building it up and storing it. And
it's building up over time. There's certain organs in the body that concentrate the pollutants, and so livers and intestines and some of the guts, what we loosely refer to as guts, those things should be removed immediately upon catching the fish, if you plan on eating the fish. So the idea there is get that stuff out of there as quickly as you can, and you're still going to pick up some toxins in the meat, you're going to pick up some mercury no matter what you do, but that is, it can be eaten in a limited fashion. And you want to concentrate not just how much you eat in any given day, but how much you eat in any given week, any month, or any year.
And what about crab? I know crab is a bottom feeder and tends to be more of a scavenger.
Yeah.
How is it affecting them? Is it still?
You'd have to assume that there are some toxins in the crab as well, but there are less studies showing us how much pollution
Into crabs. So
yeah.
okay.
And you'll never know where your crabs came from. And so there's probably safer and less safe areas, but unfortunately they're all mixed together in the market, so you don't get a sense of how clean those are. But generally, crabs are considered okay. Tuna is another one that picks up mercury, not because they live in polluted areas, because same as the sharks at the top of the food chain, exactly. They pick up the anchovies and the sardines that have already bioaccumulated the mercury, and so some of the tunas are a mercury concern. You can still eat it, but you want to limit it. Certainly the tuna you find in the sushi store, sushi restaurant, is going to have some mercury in it.
They adhere to a higher quality too, I think. They have like a higher stringent to be able to carry sashimi grade sushi, right?
Yeah, exactly. So typically the bluefin is considered somewhat polluted. The yellowfin tuna is considered somewhat polluted. The albacore tuna is not considered polluted, and they're one of the cleanest. So they're one that you may want to focus on both in the market and at the sushi restaurant, the albacore. And that is not the red sashimi.
Okay,
that is
the white stuff, right?
The white stuff, exactly.
Well, there you have it with the food part of it. We're here with Karl Menard, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about science.
Yeah, so here we actually get to see a little bit of science in action. We're here on the north coast of California. We see some young scientists that are actually out in the tide pools, counting animals, looking at animal densities, which animals are living where they are in the tidal range, some of the changes or fluxes that could be occurring over time, naturally or unnaturally. One of the things we really want to know is what are the effects of humans on the natural order of things here in the ocean, in the area right between land and the sea, which is an area of great diversity. A lot of different animals live in here, and so we want to see what's going on in this area and how is it changing over time, and how much of that can we attribute to humans, how much can we attribute to global change, global climate change. One of the problems we're concerned with here in the north coast in the upwelling zone is acidification of the ocean. We know that carbon dioxide is accumulating in our atmosphere. We know that it's going to have an effect on the pH of the ocean, and as that pH is reduced, kind of like acid rain, but now we have acidification of the ocean, how's that going to affect the animals that chemically need a basic environment in order for them to build their shells and to build the body parts that require calcium carbonate. So that's a big concern that's going to grow here in the next few decades as we see a reduction in ocean pH.